Welcome to the Fit Affiliate Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Kirkman, and sitting alongside me is Tony Ronke, the founder of Fit Affiliate and all-round CrossFit OG. The mission of Fit Affiliate is very simple: protect the affiliate model. Our sole purpose is to help affiliate owners and coaches attain freedom. We aren't here to tell you what to do, but to instead build your ability to believe in yourselves. Enjoy the show. And welcome back to our next episode of the Fit Affiliate Podcast for our very exciting Mega 100th episode. And they said we'd never make it, Tony, but here we are again.
Wait, who said that?
It might have been you, actually. It might have been you.
I think I actually did say that. I was like, this will never make it that far.
But
today, you're your hater, your own hater.
Yeah,
I literally, you have no idea. They all know though.
But today, super excited to have the one and only Pamela Gagnon come on, the all things gymnastics wizardry. If you've been around for more than 2 minutes, you will have seen her doing all sorts of amazing ninja things on the grams. Seminar staff for the gymnastics course, co-creator of Performance Plus Programming, Masters Games athlete. There's nothing that she hasn't done. So we are excited for this chat today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Tony and I go back way back in the day, 2013, I think I started CrossFit Gymnastics.
I was trying to figure that out, actually. I was thinking about that. I was like,
yeah.
You were at the first summit, correct?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if you were. I was like, I think Pamela was at that one. I'm pretty sure. Because I think that was like 2013 or maybe it was 2014.
That was.
Yeah.
That was definitely 2013. And then I think went to 2018 and 2019 and then moved on to, just some different things. It was amazing. Had a wonderful experience, met so many people around the world, but just needed something else to light the fire under me.
I was the amazing part of it, just for everybody listening to this.
So modest and humble as always.
Yeah. I literally spent a solid week crying because, I had to leave Tony and Chuck and Tucker and all those guys. Yeah.
Probably a lot of people in therapy for those exact same reasons.
That's right.
No, it sucks about that though too, is that I think you and I actually worked together out of that decade, basically. I think I was trying to think of that too. I was a couple of times, 2, 3, 4 times maybe we were ever in the same place, aside from summits or formal get-togethers. I was how many times? I was maybe 2 or 3 times. It was not that many, which for everybody that's listening to this and they want to be on seminar staff because you get to hang out with cool people, you don't. At least
it's a lot
on
of work.
The SME side, you don't really ever get to see the other people because they're the same version of you, so you don't put you in the same room together. You're just hi friend, hey, I'll see you sometime. Maybe if we Pamela and I have forever been trying to go skiing together, but here we are.
Listen, I bought my Epic Pass, so it's all on you now.
No wonder you're so motivated this year. I have not bought my Epic Pass. I go back and forth on that. I have a local one, but by the time I go 2 or 3 times, I'm I should have bought that damn pass.
Yeah.
Every time.
Well, I'll be in Salt Lake maybe end of January, beginning of February. So
I know.
We'll have to plan it.
All
right.
I think I'm going to Mammoth.
It's out in the podcast now.
Anyway.
Yes.
Completely sidebar tangent here.
We did.
We got ourselves going. I'm pumped that you're on here. Obviously, it's episode 100, which is very exciting regardless, but you're the perfect person to be on here for episode 100. But a couple of things that we could talk about. Pamela and I both ended up in the Grand Canyon at basically the same time without necessarily knowing that we're in the Grand Canyon at the same time at all, which is hilarious. But the thing that I really wanted to share was kind of your professional journey through this whole thing, because I think most people at this point, you'd have to be living under a rock to not know who you are in the CrossFit space to some degree. But I think it's very valuable because there's so many people who, aren't really sure how to, to quote unquote, make a career out of something like this. And so one of the only options is affiliate ownership. And so we bring a handful of you guys on here, you, EC, Pat, et cetera, people who chose the professional coach journey. And I think that it's equally as rewarding, if not maybe sometimes even more, because you don't have the pressures and the stress of the brick and mortar that you got to worry about. But I think for a lot of people, hearing your story and letting you share that part of the story, I think will be valuable to let them know that hey, I don't necessarily need to sign a lease and take on all this overhead just to help more people. Because no doubt about it, your reach has become exponential. Kind of a fun note here that many people might not know. When way back in the day, I basically had control of the Instagram and growing it. And this has always been a funny anecdotal story, but like I would, basically send out requests for what we would want to make for videos. And like, if we would give the video to Pamela, it would have 42 bajillion views, likes, comments, interactions. And if I first of all, I never made any videos because that comes as no surprise to anybody listening to this. But like, I give it to Sean, Kevin, Chuck. They would they would do the exact same thing as Pamela, but they'd be like 5 people would like it or watch it. So I was like, quickly, we're like, you go do the whole thing, and then it just kind of blew up. And then it's sort of the same time, you kind of went the same way. So you're like the infinitely, and the reason for that is that I always laughed about it. I was like, Pamela is like the infinitely relatable person, right? Like, female masters athletes, incredible mover, attractive person. Like everybody's like, there's something for everyone in following Pamela. And that's then how you ended up with so many damn followers. But I always thought that part was funny, and very few people know that part of the story. And I tell it a lot. And I pick on you at every seminar, and I say, we just let Pamela make all the videos because she just likes to go out in her garage and do pull-ups, and she ain't got anything else to do.
It's true. I spend like way too much time in my garage alone and actually enjoy it. Which is
she actually only lives in the garage. Everybody listening to this, she just rents a garage space, and she moves her cot out of the way and does pull-ups and then pulls it back out.
That would probably be very. Yeah, exactly. That would be financially much better than what I'm doing right now. I like use 2 rooms, the kitchen and the garage. Exactly. So yeah, I think, well, thank you for the compliment, but here's kind of maybe my point of view, and would maybe help some people, is if you are completely passionate about something, it comes across in so many different ways. And that's just maybe even watching my movement, where I'm passionate enough to make it accessible to everybody. So yes, I post ridiculous things that most people can't do, but I also, the majority of stuff I try and break down into like, no, like, hey, I'm going to figure out a way to make you feel like this is attainable or something to work towards. Whether, like, I'm working on a mana, which is a ridiculously hard skill. I know for a fact never get a mana, but I have come up with drills, and there's amazing gymnastics coaches on YouTube that have, made it more attainable that I can work towards it. So, and I took that really from being a gymnast growing up and breaking things down, because if like I was 6 and my coach is like, all right, you're going to learn a double back, I'd be like, what? That's terrifying. I'm never going to flip twice and land on my feet. But that's not how you approach that.
Right.
You approach it by incremental little steps, like hiking the Grand Canyon, right, Tony?
I'm sure that's a double back, but it is a step, a lot of steps.
Exactly. So my first thing is, I think that having that passion will help people relate to you, right? So while maybe some of the skills I post are completely out of somebody's realm, maybe it's just relatable because I exude this like love of movement, and just strength and grace, and making it look easy. Like when you watch the Olympics, everybody's like, oh, I could have totally been an Olympic skier. Like, look at how easy that is, because when you master something, you should make it look like anybody could do it. So, if you're out in this space, I never started my page or CrossFit Gymnastics for the money. And I know that's a very cliche thing, but eventually that might come. I did it because I really, really, truly wanted to help somebody learn a handstand. And it wasn't just about the handstand. It was a life lesson, and I taught 4th and 6th grade that same way. I was a teacher for many years too. That the life lesson is, it's going to be hard, but we're going to break it down, and it's not going to be so overwhelming.
And that's like what I said to you before we, hit record, is that in my journey as a coach and affiliate owner, and I was following your content, gymnastics was never my forte. I'm built to pick up heavy things and put them down again. So I could see something and see how it could be attainable, and then learn ways to break it down for athletes, because your content, you didn't feel like that you talk down to people. Like, you see some people in the space, they will be creating content and you're like, oh, I just feel like I'm stupid now because they're now just focusing on this lesser progression. And you're right, it's very clear that it's about the journey it took to get there, which then as a coach you can relay to your athletes and help them get the benefit. And it was incredibly relatable, rather than I'm just being talked at here and I'm just not ever going to do this.
Yeah.
Gymnastics is, I mean, that's the essence of that whole sport too, right? And I think that a lot of this carries over for sure. And you said it, like, from your time as being a gymnast, is like the whole emphasis of that sport is failure, right? Like, because it's like, hey, here's perfection. How far from that are you? And that's your score, right? Like, the whole thing is almost nihilistic to some degree. And I think that when you face that and you grow up in that, really, right? Like, and you're constantly doing that, like, it's much easier to see and confront harder things and assume that, like, hey, I can just break this down into manageable, actionable steps, progressions, etc., and like get to that point. You don't view it and see it as so impossible, right? And I think that does come off for sure in the content that you do create. But I think one of the main reasons it comes off in that is that really what you're saying is that you're just authentic, right? Because, like, it's just the thing that you really enjoy doing. And so you didn't really mind making it. And so it's so much more, like, just fun to watch, right? It's just, even if you have no intention doing it, you're just like, oh, what is she doing now? Something else I can't do, right? And it's,
Right.
So maybe you do go out, like, one day I'll leak all the videos of me attempting to do the things that Pamela has done. But
Okay, I want to see.
We need to see those.
Until then, we'll just assume that I make equally as good videos. I got some rings hanging right here, just so we're
That's
straight
right.
on that.
Yeah, don't let them fool you. Tony's got some gymnastics skills. I've seen it.
Mostly in the version of teaching them, because those who can't do teach, and that's my forte. But
I like it.
The one thing that I think, and you did just touch on it too, is that it's like success in all things is just a time horizon conversation. And so many people look at somebody like yourself, I think, and would be like, oh, must be nice, or like overnight success. But like, all success isn't anything is that your willingness to do the boring thing longer than most people are willing to do it. And it's super easy to do that when you love the shit out of what it is that you're doing, right? Like, if you decided to, like, if I was going to go out and make a running video every single day to get people to like running, I'm going to have a hard time doing that. Like, it's just, I'm not going to enjoy it because I don't necessarily enjoy running. But like, if you happen to like the thing, even if nobody likes it, you can, so much easier to make it. And it's like, to your point about, like, I didn't do it for the money. I think really what you're saying in so many ways is that, like, I didn't do it because I cared if anybody even followed me or liked me. And that so comes off in so much of like your content and people who do things just like that. Cause they're just, you're not doing it to, like, you're not waiting to see, like, okay, they want to see this and I'm going to go figure out how to make this reel or that video. And like, it's just, it gets so cringy so quickly. Like, yours is always, I think that's why everybody's always been like, let me, like, CrossFit loves to share. Everybody's like, let me go see what Pamela's version of this is. Cause like, it could be the exact same thing, but if you get it from a source that feels warmer, I think it changes the whole way in terms of how you, approach the whole thing, or your perception of the thing.
And even too, not making, you'll see a lot of people will post stuff and talking about expecting something of it. They're either making an ask up front and then showing you, but if you want the rest of my progressions, go buy my program and download here. Or at the end, if you want to do this, here's my, 6-week program. But it's all full of asks rather than just teach people, because, the knowledge is free. Like, teach people, and then the value is in the implementation and that, but not making an ask on every single video.
Yeah. I think the authenticity and really the empathy is important when you're a coach. So for, like, all my Performance Plus athletes, or really, and honestly, I hope that I answer 100% of the DMs that I'm sent that are like, hey, I'm struggling with this. They're not even an athlete of Performance Plus or Mayhem or, can you take a look at my video? Sure. And I literally give them 2-3 pieces of information, hope that helps. And because I really, truly care, and that's just maybe just innate in my nature as well too. But that's also, and I don't do it for this, but I'm saying, if you truly show you care, people want to come back and they're like, wow, okay, let me tell my friend this person might have a good tip, and a drill. And like you just are able to be in the community in a more positive way in that way. And
Mm.
yes, we all have to pay bills, right? I'm not going to say I literally send my kids to 2 private colleges off of, I have to make money. So, yes, the end product or the bonus, the on top of all of my passion and free advice and just care, sure, it helps pay my bills, and I'm very grateful for that. And I make sure I tell people I am grateful because I
Mhm.
wouldn't be able to do what I do without them.
Yeah. I think, well, first of all, you just invited everybody to DM you. So hopefully
Yeah.
because
Just blowing up.
we're not going to breeze past
Oh,
that because everybody's just like, did you, she's reads all of her DMs. I'm like, oh God, here we go.
and
I'm
I
not
don't
going to
get
be
yeah.
accountable to that. Just so we're clear.
Okay.
Just because I brought you on here and you said that, that's on you.
Oh, it'll be like 100 days of DMs that I'll be
Yeah.
answering, but
Yeah.
It's well, so one of the things I say a lot, at least it's like a core tenet of affiliate, is to give freely what you know and charge handsomely for what you do. And I
Mm.
think that you do a really good job of that because you've always just provided a ridiculous amount of videos, if I'm being honest. Like just truly like the amount of content that pours out of that garage has always been laughable. It's been endless amounts of jokes that I have presented at seminars in regards to just how many videos that she will pump out of that garage. And then all of the videos that don't get seen that exist inside Performance Plus, et cetera. I'm like, there is just an endless camera that is just rolling, and it's probably rolling right now in the garage, just watching the pull-up bar in case it might spontaneously break out into
You want
fitness.
to know the funniest thing though? It's literally just this,
I
like the iPhone, a $4 stand, and on my ladder. Like that's all I use.
and that's all you need.
Yeah.
But and I think to your point though is that like one of the big problems we have in like the Western world in general is just how we consume and pursue knowledge. And that's just because that's how we were all raised. And I think that we all think that knowledge is about possession, right? I'm going to acquire this, I'm going to own what I know, and then I'll sell that. But like that's never been the point of information in human history. The point was to like take information and then apply it and go forth and do something with it. But I think school just taught us all to like, I need to remember this and pass a test with it. And like, then I'm going to be better because the test said that I'm better. But the
Yeah.
best people in the world, the most valuable people are the ones like yourself and everybody else out there that does it. They give their knowledge and then they charge for what they do, right? So if I'll tell you everything that I know, but if you need help with that, I'm going to have to charge you because that's going to take my time more so than just what I know. And I think
Yeah.
like Greg is a perfect example of somebody who did exactly that. Like from the beginning, .com was open source. I will dump everything that I know. And then you have the forum and everybody else did as well. Like everything is in the journal or it's in the forum, go do with it. And what happens? We all try to do it. And then we're like, I need a little extra help.
Right.
Who wants to help me? Right. And then we all found our way into, collections, and those became the affiliates. And like, those people had the right to charge for an affiliate because they became the place where you could get more information or more attention than you could get from just a download or information. And I think so many people get that backwards though, right? Instead, they try to give what they do and sell what they know. And I'm like, that's information in itself should be free. We live in the information age. You can Google anything now at this point. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need to know what's in your brain to just be like, I'm just going to Google, not literally what's in your brain. Nobody wants to know that, Pamela, but
No.
I can Google
I don't.
anything.
It's a scary
It's going to
space.
be dried chicken is what it's going to be in Quest
It
bars.
is.
But
A lot of
I
egg
think
whites.
people get that all backwards. And the one, when they look around, they're like, who's successful in this industry? It's a pretty short list, but the reason it is because the short list of people are like, I just like making content. I just like helping people and telling them like EC's done a great job, Pat's done a great job. Like we've had so many guests on here. Kelly's easily one of the most famous people in the CrossFit space now. And that's only because he was like, physical therapy is boring. So I'm just going to commit to making one video a day. I don't care if anybody watches it. Right. And then just literally went out in the garage with a lacrosse ball or a band and was like, I'll make a video on this today. And then like, it was like, I think he said it was like 8 months before like it started to like really started to pick up. And then like, it wasn't until like 2 years later did like the old videos even start to get watched. And like, but Kelly didn't make any of those videos because he was like, I'm going to build a YouTube channel. He was like, I need to make content. I don't like making content, but I really like the stuff that I do. So I'm just going to record it and then put it out there, and people watch, they watch it. And I think all of you guys did the same thing. EC did the same thing. And then people are like, oh, that's what I need to do. I mean, make videos like Pamela. I'm like, well, if you're making videos for the sake of making videos, then you're probably going to have a hard time.
Yeah, and I think that was a good point right at the end, like Pamela. So like at the very beginning when I started just like my own Instagram, I was like, this is ridiculous. Nobody's going to watch. There's, you know, other great coaches that teach gymnastics. And so I just was me, you know? And so if you want to start something, be authentically you. Don't be like, oh, this guy got 1,000 views or 10,000 views because he posted this. Just erase the data of like everything else that you know from other people and just be you. And if you're taking somebody's drill that you know is specifically something you found from them, give them credit. That goes a long way. You know, like we're here to support each other. There are great movers out there. Dave Durante, and I follow a guy from Israel who's amazing, who's a handstands expert. And if I find something that I'm like, oh, that's great, I'll be like, hey, Dave Durante can help you with that. He's better at that. Or, you know, and there's some, it's like Home Depot and Lowe's are always across the street from each other, you know, and they both survive. And so be you know, don't try and be like somebody else.
I think at this point, at Home Depot and Lowe's, it's Republican or Democrat. I swear to God, the people who go to like one versus the other.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
I spend a lot of time in both of those stores, and I'm like, wow, there is a type in here. And there is for sure, the orange side is certainly much more, in my opinion, liberal than the blue side, which is kind of funny. But anyway, complete sidebar there.
So funny.
But,
okay, so for me, Lowe's has better home decor. And Home Depot is more like gritty. Like if I'm doing a woodworking project, I'm going there.
Just so we're clear, this is anecdotal. I have no data to back that up. I did not go. I'm not going on record saying that you are one versus the other. If that's your thing, because some, you know, maybe your thing is just that you only have a Lowe's in town, which is, to Pamela's point, incredibly rare. But you know, to your point about, you know, giving credit where credit's due, I think that all comes back to the original. And I said was the issue is that like people think that like you need to like own and charge and protect and covet what you know. And like you grew up in the gymnastic space and stuff as well. And like until CrossFit came along, this was a big problem in the whole industry, right? Like you thought that what you knew was your proprietary information and people would covet that. Like you didn't want to give out skills and drills and progressions because like if I gave them out, like Pamela's just going to go take all my customers. And like that was a weird thing. And then CrossFit came up and was like, boom, it was the first place that I found as a developing coach where I was like, wow, you will just give me all of this info, like all these skills and drills and knowledge. I don't have to like pay you for it. And Greg was like, no, it's literally why I built the website. Like, go do it. Right. And like, and that was cool. And that was what built it. And then, you know, we fast forward 10, 15 years and we've jumped the shark, right? Like, cause everybody's consumed so much information. Now they've taken it back and they're like, I know something you don't know. And if you pay me, I'll tell you. Right. And they're like, wait a minute, that was the whole antithesis of everything that made CrossFit great. So like give freely of what you know. That's what the whole thing was built on. The world's largest fitness brand and movement was built on give it away for free. Because if you can give it away for free, and Kelly's the one that said this to me, was like, you can give out the recipes to your food, but you're still going to ask the chef to cook it. Like, because that's what makes your favorite restaurant your favorite restaurant. It's not because you know what's in the soup. Like, I'm going to go there because like it still tastes better when Pamela makes it. And like so many people need to learn that part of it. And your part about like giving credit. So many people are afraid of giving credit because they think that's going to make them look stupid because they didn't know it themselves. And I got it from Pamela. But what they don't realize is that by giving it from you to somebody else, you increase that audience. So you, Pamela, is going to be happy that I helped co-promote you. So then there's going to be co-promotion. You're probably going to retag, reshare. There'll be an elevation. So the very thing that you're trying to avoid is the very thing you're creating, right? And then so many people that don't get that part of it. I'm like, listen, if just go give credit where credit's due. Maybe you don't know who made the video, and that's different. But like, if you know exactly, you just watched it and you're like, I'm going to go redo it. You don't,
But the
it
thing
doesn't make
is,
you, go ahead.
the thing is too, is that like you and I, Tony, could both watch a video of Pamela and get different things out of it. So you can, it doesn't necessarily make you, less than or stupid, because I'm going to go away and talk about what I saw this video and this was informative. I got this out of it and this was my interpretation. So there's still room in the space for you to go and talk about what you got out of it and what you learned and your interpretation and how you've executed on that. It's not just oh, well, Pamela's done it, that's it. It's understanding that we are part of this ecosystem that can fuel and feed each other if we all participate and work together, rather than having to be an island or a silo on your own. And it's like, I've got to have new ideas. There's no new ideas. Someone's probably already thought about that, something you're about to talk about, but it's what did it mean to you and how do you interpret it? And how do we leverage that off each other?
I've definitely thought of it. I've had every idea ever. You just credit
All
it
of
to
them.
me. All of them.
All
of them in the history of ever. I think a lot of it's scarcity too, right? I think, it's kind of how we led in this conversation. So many people want to figure out how to make it in the space. And that right there from the very beginning is how to make it, I think, sets you up to fail, right? Because then you have to figure out your angle. You have to figure out your leverage. You have to figure out what you can get over on someone so that they need you versus want you. And I think that anybody who has ever been a success in the industry has really been more of a necessity of want rather than need, right? You didn't need to watch any of K-Star's videos or Pamela's videos. You want them because they were there, it was a resource, and you looked forward to, the days when they got published. You probably subscribed and you're like, Tuesdays the videos come out, right? And I think, that's kind of what we hope to do by bringing some people on this podcast too, is just the information is the fun part, right? Because it's an expansion of the horizons. But when you are in a scarcity mindset, you think that's the thing that you can get access to the first, right? So you can download it, you can read it, you can do whatever, you can do it quickly. And so you trend to protect it and covet it. Somebody who's hungry, right? If you're hungry, you're going to protect your sandwich. You're not going to share it. But, I think that so many people who become a success, they do share the sandwich, right? They're like, hey, I didn't do this because I wanted to make money, but then shocker, it ends up making money. So people see the money part of it and they see what you do. And then they're like, that's what I need to do. Make videos and sell them. Well, it's a long ways away, but you can try. Now you're going to have a hard time for the next 17 years.
So when I was listening to you talk about that, and I know you want to kind of delve into what is it that you did to build your brand and, kind of get out there. Align yourself with people that are good at what you're not good at. So I am a content person, and I am not good at running a business. That is not my expertise. I would not be where I am if I didn't know my lane and be okay with it, And so I found an amazingly dedicated, passionate business partner, Dr. Zach Long. And then we found another amazingly passionate person in the CrossFit space who's an IT tech guy, who was an affiliate owner, who has other expertise that we don't. And we each three know exactly our roles in the business, honestly, without even writing them down on a business plan. And it's just works seamlessly. They're like, hey, do you mind if we do this business wise? They'll always run it by me. I'm like, dude, I trust you. I'm not good at that. Thanks for running it by me. I want to know what's going on. And they're like, just create content. That's where you're good, what you're good at. And if I tried to do it all, I'd be worn out. I'd spread myself too thin over too many different areas of the business. And so I think that's a big misconception too, is I'm going to build my own business. And that can get greedy. I'd rather build an amazing business and make less, but enjoy the process. And honestly, we're probably making more because now we have 3 experts, not one trying to be an expert in 3 different fields,
And it's part of that asking for help, isn't it? And that's something I guess we run into a bit at Affiliate. Affiliate owners are out there putting out every fire and they're struggling, but no one wants to put up their hand up and go, actually, I'm not good at this. This is not my, strength. This is not where my skills need to be used, and get someone in who can help with that stuff. They're trying to do all the things out of necessity, and it's like until they can get to a position where they can hand things off rather than like getting help at that first point and not having that a bit, what you're talking about, Tony, is having that scarcity is like, no, I have to do it. This is mine. And I have to do everything and a bit of that martyrdom, but it's understanding the power of those relationships lets you pull on bigger levers, like you said, for more success.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just ingrained in us too, right? Again, this is not like the anti-education podcast, although Pamela was a teacher, but I think a lot of it is just it's the nature of how you go to school, right? You're not taught to get help, right? Maybe you had like a partner for like some sort of stupid program that you had to do, but like the reality is that you had to study for your own test, do your own homework, get your own passing grade, etc. You weren't taught to collaborate. Collaboration was like this thing that just didn't exist. And so you go in the real world and all of a sudden you're immediately thrust into collaboration world. You're just like, what do you mean I have to work together? And then if you don't know what you're doing, you're like, I'm going to get fired. And I think you just kind of learn that throughout that whole process. But to your point, Pamela, like so many people would just be better off. They just stuck to what they know. And they're like, hey, I don't know what I don't know. And there's a million other resources out there for somebody that will help you with that.
Like, yeah. So when I taught fourth grade, we would work teams a lot actually, and they would have to decipher which job they were best at. And that way, because when you go to most kids hate group work because one kid ends up doing everything,
Mm-hmm.
So I would always make the kids figure out who's good at the creative, who's good at script writing, who's good at the organization, who's good at delegating. And we don't learn that enough in school, right? And so for my business, I literally was like, I'm not good at that, and my ego's okay with it, But I think for people who start off a business or trying to okay, so let's say I was running my own online business. I have to give away some of the money I'm making in order to hire somebody. And that's a little dagger in the bank account. But what are going to be eventually, the gains that you make from that if you make those smart decisions? So it's like you lose a little to gain a little more, right? Eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the things that I knew about bringing you on here was that you're kind of like the master class in both positioning and partnering. And that much I know because I know you very personally and I know the whole journey. And it's one of the parts of we talk about in the $1 Million Coach program is, the first three sort of mindsets, but two of those are positioning and partnering. And one of the reasons that we start there is because it's just a thing that people don't think to do when you're coming up in your journey, is that they don't really think much about their positioning, which is really exactly what it sounds like, putting yourself in a position of importance and attention. But that partnering part of it is always so overlooked, right? Like, who can you partner with? Who can you align with? And sometimes that's from a co-promotion standpoint. Like if I want to elevate myself and I can find a reason or a way to make Pamela's life easier, then she can obviously make my life easier by elevating me. And so partnering is such a huge part of that, especially for developing coaches, not even if you're trying to build like a YouTube or an Instagram following. I mean, but it applies there as well. But if you're trying to even build out your PT list, right? Like if you're just trying to do anything for that matter, you have to consider how you position yourself, and you have to consider, how you partner yourself. And I think a lot of coaches understand the positioning part, at least in well, if I got on seminar staff, that better position me. Absolutely. It would. Right. But it would also be giving up your time to something that's not your own for every single weekend of your life for a long time. And that's a whole conversation. But then, but from that, you can learn other people to partner with. I think you've done a great job of that. No doubt. That's how you did blow up so fast, is because I think you just innately knew that and you were really good at it. But you're also just probably hands down one of the most genuine and kind people I've ever met in the space. That's why I think you're like my best friend. But I think that's also a pretty rare thing, which is most people just end up cold and standoffish because they are so scared and insecure. They're just not approachable. And you were the exact opposite of that. So it makes it so easy for you to be, better positioned and better, better partnered.
Thank you. So kind.
You're welcome.
With all the compliments today, Tony.
It's
because I just ran through the Grand Canyon, which we can talk about in a second if you want. I'm all hopped up
bringing
on
Tony to the mush level. He's getting all like
all up in the fields.
emotional, right? All the
I always
feels.
tell when I have like a personal relationship, I think, with the guests, so then people are like,
Yeah.
oh, and they definitely they know each other, which I think most
Yeah.
people come on here though only are my
Mm.
friends, because I'm not cool enough to bring people on here who aren't my friends. And when I do, I'm like, I don't even know you. What do we talk about? So anyways, so you've moved forward. Performance Plus is blown up for the most part. That's going really well. Now you are working with Mayhem too. So you've got that going on, another partnership, another promotion. So I guess what the hell aren't you doing now? I mean, I feel like you're doing literally everything.
Yeah. Man, I love what I do. And I know that life is continuing to flow like a river, right? It's ever forever moving. And I have to like grab on to the opportunities because, it ebbs and flows, right? My partnership with Mayhem Gymnastics is amazing. Again, they're like, hey, you're the expert. Let's, have you write the gymnastics stuff. And I promote them and they're proud, really grateful to have me and I'm grateful to have them and we just grow each other and they're like we don't feel threatened and it's just amazing. I constantly tell Jake Lockhart like I, I am so grateful. I was, went through a very difficult 2 years and just felt like I belonged somewhere and they were really just amazing because what I do with Performance Plus is very isolating. I
Yeah.
work from home. I'm in my garage alone videoing. I would if I didn't go to my CrossFit gym, I'd see nobody in those past 2-3 years with COVID and everything. My kids, both my boys are now in college, so empty nesting, and so yeah, I've been really grateful for that opportunity as well. And because empty nesting is now in my world, I do have the opportunity to travel and coach seminars just on my own. And so I went to France this summer and I do a lot of local clinics as well. And I can grow it as big as I want and slow it down when I need to. So yeah, I pinch myself every day. I like, how am I so lucky to do this? But I remind myself, I'm 49. It took me 49 years to get here. Maybe 2, 3 years ago, right? I felt like, okay, this is solid. Like this is going to happen. So, okay. So it took me 45 years to get there. And I had 3 different careers. I was a school teacher. Then I had a promotional apparel business for a decade. And then I got into CrossFit. And I coached gymnastics on the side for many, many years. So, like you said, like when people see like me now, they don't really understand the 25-year journey it took to get here.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's human nature in general too. They see
Yeah.
like your
Mhm.
overnight success, and they don't necessarily understand that. But I mean, everything you have now is obviously very well deserved. And like to your point about like it took you 49 years to get here. What'll be hilarious is that in 10 years you'll be like, and it took me 59 years to get here, and like it'll be and I think
I
and I
hope so.
don't doubt that at all, because that's usually the case with anybody. And people don't think about that part of it, right? They're like, I need to be where I'm supposed to be yesterday, and they don't realize that like all you have to do is just stretch something out over a time horizon, right? Like, and for someone like yourself, you didn't make, a bajillion videos in one day, although she probably did made half a bajillion videos yesterday. She does, but, they just don't see that part of it. And it's just, anybody wants to be anything. All you have to do is find something that you're willing to do consistently. And like, that's the value of having, the ability to, put you on a platform like this and let you tell the stories. Like, there's no secret. Just find something you like doing and then just keep doing it because you enjoy doing it. And then people will start following along. And next thing you know, doors start opening. And I think when you start to experience that, and I hope everybody gets the chance to experience that at some point, like you find yourself being like, really? Okay. Yeah. I would love to do that. Okay. Yeah. I'll do that too. Like you just, things keep coming at you and people don't see how it happens. They're just like, must be nice. Like everybody just throws stuff that I'm like, it's not that everybody just throws things at Pamela. It's just that like, she just gives out of kindness. She's done those things. And like you create the videos, you create the content. People are just like, hey, you would be very helpful to us. Would you mind, helping us? And you're like, sure. And I think that part of it is, it's unfortunately overlooked in so much of everybody's own personal development. They want to be there yesterday.
Yeah.
Like,
And
But I think-
also, go ahead, Lisa.
I was just going to say, it just circles back to what you're saying at the start, Pamela, about, about doing something because you're passionate about it. Like, if you're not passionate about it and doing it for the right reasons, you can't turn up in that garage every day and put the time into creating the content. If you're just doing it because, well, Pamela makes this look easy and she's successful, I'm going to do it. You last, a month, 6 months.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't, you just get sick of that grind of creating. Whereas because you're passionate about it and you're doing it because you want to share these things, it's easy for you to enjoy that process of the creating and putting that stuff together and being consistent with it, because you're like, well, it's what I have to do.
Yeah, and also I forget, I think it was a famous athlete who, it's kind of said like, while they're sleeping, I'm practicing, I'm working. That, is a very kind of famous thought of like success. So I get like bills have to be paid, you got family, kids. So I worked 2 jobs building Performance Plus. So I had a promotional apparel business, and then I worked at CrossFit Gymnastics and traveled on the weekends, and then ran the CrossFit Gymnastics Instagram site. And then on the side, I did hustle the extra hours. And yeah, I got up, I set my alarm early, or, maybe I ate lunch while I'm in between filming. And so it does take that extra, that little extra something to drive you into making time for that. It's not going to make money right away, right? You're not going to be able to leave everything. Sell your house and let's just do this. Like, slowly climb the ladder.
I mean, you could probably sell your house, but I don't necessarily recommend that.
You could. I mean, you could sell everything. Again, some people want to. Some people are like, hey, let me live out of my car. And, obviously, if it's just you trying to support yourself, there's a difference. I had kids and stuff, other stuff.
There's still a burning of a boats mentality, right? Even if you don't actually physically sell or financially sell everything that you own, I think that anybody who does get to a certain degree of success, there was a burning of the boats where they were like, listen, I'm going to commit to this thing, hell or high water, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, that is essentially selling out that time that you could have been doing other things. And that is a big distraction for many people, is that they do think that they're like, I'm going to commit to this thing. And then they get a few weeks or months into it, and then they're like, okay, I won't make that video today because I'll go do this thing or that thing. But anybody who's ever made it was like, well, no, I just made the video first, then I went and did the thing, right? Like, or I found a way to make the video, right? And it's not necessarily just about content creation. It happens to be now because you're fantastic at it, but like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, if you're going to commit to it, like affiliate, like I just committed to 1 post a day, every single day, ever in the history of ever. And like, and people would look at it like, man, you guys pump out so much content. I'm like, it's just literally just write something every single day. It doesn't have to be long, doesn't have to be thought out. Just get in the habit of doing something where most people would quit. And it's the same reason this podcast went. Like, I told Lisa in the beginning, I was like, if we're going to set this up, we're never moving this appointment, because that's how this thing will either be a success or fail. And 100 episodes later, here we are, because it's been every Wednesday, no matter who's on the podcast. And if there's not a guest, it's just Lisa and I. Sometimes there's 2 episodes in a week, but most of the time it's like, we're just going to record the podcast, and people would look at it like, oh, I need to sit down and make 100 episodes. I'm like, well, you're going to fail. That would never work.
I love that. Congrats to you guys. That's really cool. That's a good story too.
You're the 100th guest.
Oh, I know. I'm so excited. Do I get like confetti, like the iPhone?
That's up to Lisa. I don't know.
Yeah, we could make all sorts of magic in the background.
Okay. I like confetti.
So how did you end up in the Grand Canyon? What were you doing in Vegas?
So,
you're in Vegas?
Yeah, no, I literally went to hike the Grand Canyon because that is a mental grind. I knew physically I could do it. I didn't think my ankles would be as sore. So just like calf muscles and
I can't put mine on the camera, but I'd show them to you right now. I got cankles.
Super fat. So you did 4 times as much as me. I mean, holy moly. So I went down South Kaibab, walked to Phantom Ranch, walked back, and went up, what was it called? Angel something. Bright Angel.
Bright Angel.
Yes. So it was 18 and a half miles, 30,000 steps, and stops and down the river and all that, put the feet in the water that were blistered up
Hot.
and stuff. But yeah, so it took 10 hours. But we stopped and stuff. So it was amazing. What I loved the most is that I just looked in front of me and just kept saying one step at a time. Like shut my brain off. Honestly, I just turned my brain off. Kind of like what I do in the CrossFit Open or like qualifiers or games. Like I have this switch. It's like this, I can literally see it like in my own head of like turning my brain off, making it blank, and just knowing my body can do the work. And so I just stared down in front of me, well, looked up a lot too, but and just kept moving, and the last 2 miles were in the dark with a headlamp, and that was really epically cool.
Yeah.
I'm actually glad it got dark. That was cool. And I want to go back and do what you did, Tony.
It's he might be able to convince me to do it again. I was swore once I had finished that I would never see the Grand Canyon again, except for to maybe go and throw a rock in it out of spite, because I just hated it so much. But yeah, you might convince me to do it again, because I have some theories as to how I could make it better the next time I do it. But I think
so. Wait, one quick, hold on. So because you just said that, the day after I call my kids, I'm like, listen, this was epic, better than I thought. I really will never do it again unless you guys wanted to do it. And here I am like a week later. Hey, Tony, I want to go with you. Let's do this.
He has that effect on people.
Yeah.
I know.
Oops.
Yeah.
Literally, I dragged them in there. So a couple of things about this. One, anybody's listening to this while we're talking about this, first of all, the fact that her and I ended up one day apart from each other doing this is hilarious to me, because there was no conversation. She had just gotten out, and I was just like preparing to basically go in. And I was like, "What? You're literally there?" And I was going to be there in like literally 10 hours to do it at the same time, basically the same thing, which I thought was very funny. But I also think that people listening to this, when they hear something like this, they need to understand. I'm not saying that the Grand Canyon is Everest, but it's until you've gone down, do you understand the problem? That you're like, oops, shit, I got to go back up. Right? And so one of the reasons that I went into the challenge that I went to, which was basically rim to rim to rim, out and all the way back, was that I knew that I was going to be faced with a couple of challenges. One, my life would literally basically be on the line, which is really what I wanted to go after. But two, like I knew that I was going to be faced with this realization of like, I have to get out. Like you have to get out. And like, there's an overwhelming amount of weight that comes along with that. And like, if anybody's listening to this, like 3 million plus people visit the Grand Canyon a year, and like less than 1% go down, right? Like less than 1% that go down and come back up in the same day. Cause most people go down, and they sleep down there, or they camp down there. Cause it's pretty arduous. And like, if you've ever been in an airport, you can see just how unfit and unhealthy most people are. And until you get like halfway down the trail, which is a downhill, and you're like, oh, this must be easy, but your quads are blown out and you're like, I'm fit. Why is this already hurt this bad? I'm like 2 miles in and it's already painful. Do you realize how people would probably start down the trail and be like, send help? I forget how many people get rescued a year, but once you've done it, you're like, I always knew the stats. I was like, yeah, I mean, it's probably dangerous, whatever. But until you go down there, you're like, whoa. And I was talking to the girl at the bottom on the way back out, getting my lemonade, which was the best lemonade I've ever had in my life. And she was like, you'd be surprised how many people ask me where the shuttle is. And I was like, really? She's like, yes. I was like, how do they get down here without knowing this? She's like, I don't know, but they do. And every single day, at least one person asks for the shuttle. She's like, so I pointed to the donkeys. And that was like my slogan.
That's funny.
The whole time doing that was that don't ride the donkey. That's all. And it basically became like my life slogan, which is like, just finish what you start. Like, don't break yourself, don't crap out, and don't give up, which is don't ride the donkey. And like, but until you get down there and you see that wall and you're like,
it's so true.
And it's straight up. You're like, I have to get out here. And it's like, and it's so hot in the bottom. At least it was. I chose this week because it was supposed to be colder and it was like unseasonably hot. It was 96 degrees when I had to climb up that thing.
Oof. Yeah,
Brutal.
that's so funny you said that, because I said the same thing. Like, I have no choice, but I got to get out of here. It's like the only way out is through you walking your way up. and that is a mental grind. And I love that challenge. I really did. How did you like food wise? Because you were rim to rim to rim is a lot longer.
Mhm.
So what did you do?
I was basically a squirrel. I packed everything I could with me.
Yeah.
Well, that was part of the big challenge for me, is that I've gotten in the interest into more ultra type events. I don't necessarily like events, more so endeavors. Because I've just found that exploring the dark corners of your soul and your behaviors and your personality are only really available to you in certain types of like physical sort of duress like this. And so for me, I like things, I've become much more appreciative of things like that. I don't necessarily care so much about the physicality of it as much as the mental approach to it. And so one of the big challenges in this was that there's lots of things that I can find that are physical, like, Tahoe 200 and stuff like that, but they're not self-supported. They're not, self-propelled. And one of the beautiful parts about rim to rim to rim as an endeavor for anybody who's ever done it, they're self-propelled. I mean, the National Park Service basically tells you, do not do this
Yeah.
unless you plan to take 5 days doing it. And I was like, hear me out, guys. How about we do it in under 24 hours? And my friends are like, that's a terrible idea. When are we going to do it? But,
Yep.
so that was a big part of it. Was I wanted the problem solving of like the fuel in the water. And like a big part of choosing a cold time to do it, you've got two choices. You can do spring or you could do fall. But then there's a risk that you don't have water on down there, because for those of you guys who don't know, they plumb water through the canyon for obvious reasons, because it can be like 130 degrees in the bottom, so it's a good thing. And you don't just drink out of the river. Please don't drink out of the river unless you're going to filter it. But
Right.
so they turn the water off, usually around the beginning of October, or sometimes they don't turn it on until like June. So one of the big challenges was like, how do you take in enough water to be able to survive the whole thing in case the water is off? And so you just feverishly, you're just always checking the site to make sure it's on. But like, I didn't know until, basically the day before we were going to go, if the water was going to in fact be on. And so a lot of the reason that I chose to do it was that I wanted to put the time into programming the calories, programming the water, setting them up. And I basically plotted it out on my Garmin route, where I would take water, where I would get water, where I would take food, etc. But I packed in 4,300 calories is what I packed in.
Okay.
I truly blew it on the way out, because I was by the time I got to the climb out, I was effectively 38 miles in, which I thought I should be getting there at 36, but the mileages were all off. So I ended up the whole endeavor, it was 46 and a half miles and 12,000 feet elevation gain, which is terrible, especially when it's like 100 degrees in the bottom. But on the way out, I was so excited to be done. I just wanted to be done with that climb. I stopped eating. I was drinking, and I that slowed me down so much. I bonked out so bad. But the best idea I had was, it was so hot at Phantom Ranch, you can buy a bag of ice for a 10-pound bag. So I filled my water bladder with ice, so my back was cold for a good chunk of it. And that ice water on the way out was probably the only thing that saved my life.
That's awesome. So I had a lot of trouble eating too, because it was really warm and I wasn't hungry at all. So I burned like, 4,000 plus calories, it said on that hike. And I think I only took in maybe 1,800.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah. And so I definitely, my pack didn't have pouches like on the side. So in order for me to eat, I had to like almost like stop, pull my pack. So I would have carried like a, fanny pack in the front that had
Yeah.
just like gummies and just calorie intake stuff. That's the one thing I would have changed, because I think eating would have made me more energetic towards the end, obviously.
Food is definitely a challenge. I mean, Tasha's the one who taught me the most about that one. It really just on Diesel Day, just force feeding me the whole time, because I didn't want to eat anything. But like, once I'd gotten through Diesel Day and did so relatively, I wouldn't say easily by any chance, but like much better off than I thought I'd be after 24 hours of activity. It finally clicked to me that like, doesn't really matter what you eat, just keep eating. Like, I had consumed during Diesel Day, I was eating Hot Pockets and ramen noodles. Like, so I was like, this is the best Hot Pocket I've ever eaten in my life. But I would have done the same thing, put the food more in front, because I was trying to move so quickly and diligently. I didn't want to stop and get to the food.
Yeah.
So what I did was I was trying to set up these checkpoints in my brain that really were just checkpoints of safety. And that's where I failed myself. And I should have just stop when I stopped, and I should have stopped for a couple of seconds to grab the food and keep moving. And so they're just lessons that you learn, but that's kind of the fun part of the whole thing. And I think it's super cool that you did it. And like, and I think that anybody that's listening to these things, like, I'm not necessarily advocating that you should go out and do, ultra challenging, ultra hard things, but you'd be surprised. You're probably 500% more capable than you think you are, because you'll get halfway up that trail and be like, I can't make it, but you do. You always do.
Yeah.
And that's when you learn about yourself. And that's why I enjoy doing it. And I think, people see you and you're very observably and identifiably a great athlete. So to hear, you say that it's hard, I think a lot of people will be like, wow, okay, that thing must actually be really hard then. Cause like, she's definitely better than I am. But go do those things, train for them, prepare for them, obviously, but go do them, because there's very few places. And like, I think that's what makes CrossFit so special too, is that, you learn about yourself in those micro doses of challenge for sure. But it's not until like you expand that time horizon out over like 10 hours, 12 hours, 20 hours. And you're like, I'm still CrossFitting. I'm still moving with that same level. And you're like, I can't believe I can do this. And that changes people 100% of the time. It's super
I agree.
rad.
And I love that CrossFit is a community. Did you find like you guys pushed each other? Like your group? Yeah. Like when one was down, the other was like, dude, one step in front of the other. Let's do it.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was
That was so
everybody in the
helpful
group,
for
this was
me
the
too.
longest thing that they'd ever done. So it was kind of like
Mhm.
stick together so that everybody gets out.
Yep.
And it's always fun, I think. But yeah, the whole problem solving part of it and the distance of it was cool. I think
Yeah.
I said I'd never do it again. I probably would.
Yeah.
I probably could be talked into it again. I know what I would change.
Yeah.
I'm not even like 72 hours home, and I'm like, I will never
Right.
go back. And 72 hours later, I'm like, so we think we maybe do the weekend later. And everybody's like, what are you talking about? But
Like
next one I'll do will be
you
the
need
picnic.
maybe we need like 6 months recovery. We'll forget. It's like when I have 2 children. The first
Mhm.
child, I was like, heck no, I'm not going through that again. And then like a year later, like, of course I want another,
It's amazing how fast the human body recovers, and the mind though, right? Because like
Yeah.
physically speaking, I feel fine. Like it didn't necessarily happen. And my ankles are still a little sore, but like my brain was like full on trauma. But I put that in the box now, and I'm like, I'll do it again.
Right. I know. Well,
It's so
congrats to
dumb.
you. You really like, man, that was a big feat for you for sure.
You can do the whole thing with me if I go back again.
Okay. Deal. Sounds good.
Uh,
We'll come back and
Anyways,
talk
enough
about
about the
it.
Grand Canyon. We'll
Yes.
close this one out, because I think there's a lot to be said in this one. And I always sit with all you guys because you're all friends, but I want to bring you back on and talk a little bit more about it. But for everybody that's listening to this, where can they find the most, besides the fact that you've built an incredible Instagram following, but like, what's the easiest way for them to get more access to more Pamela, more information from you?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel. It's called Pamela Gagnon. So same with my Instagram. Those are probably my 2 biggest platforms. And then performanceplusprogramming.com. And of course, if you follow Mayhem, I program Mayhem Gymnastics as well too. So all of those platforms, you'll see me doing some stuff.
No shortage of places to find you. Lisa will do some sorcery and put them in the show notes or whatever that
All
stuff is
right.
that she says.
They will definitely go in the show notes, and we will definitely have you back on too, because this has been an awesome chat, and I love having these conversations when Tony gets somebody on that he's known for a long time. It's always
Maybe
good
the
for-
next time she comes on, in between then I'll have talked her into doing something stupid like I do everybody else, and then we can talk about. She'd be like, this asshole took me to the top of this mountain. I'm not doing it again. Like we got to ski down it though. But
maybe your 200th episode, because today is the 100th. So
yeah, there you go.
We'll make it. Yeah, we'll make it 100.
It'll give us basically a year. Then we'll have done. You can. Yeah, we'll find something to do in there.
Perfect.
Yeah. Look out, world. Here come Tony and Pamela. All right. Thank you very much for your time, Pamela. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good seeing you.
Have loved the chat. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's show. Please remember to like and subscribe on your favorite platform. And if you know an affiliate owner, a coach, or entrepreneur that would benefit from hearing our conversations, please share this with them. We love the feedback and support we have from you guys, our audience. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find all the useful links in the show notes. We would love to connect with you. Keep doing the great work.